Let's talk to Isabel Hilton, founder and senior advisor at China Dialogue. Isabel, welcome back. Good to have you on the programme. Well, let's start with a sit-rep, to use the vernacular. What's the current state of trade between China and Europe?
Well, despite everything, and there has been a lot in the last 3 years, I have to say it remains extremely important to both sides and pretty robust. The European Union remains China's biggest trading partner, and some very big companies operate in China. Investment from Europe to China remains pretty solid. So, it could be worse, but there has been quite a lot of difficulty in the last 2 or 3 years from a number of sources when people couldn't travel and couldn't meet. So I really want to echo what we've just been hearing about for the people on this delegation personally. That's been an enormous strain, and EUChina, who is leading it, has often complained about it on a personal level. So we have to be happy for them that they will see families and they are having real conversations now.
The ground has been shifting rapidly of late in EU-China economic relations, but there are challenges ahead, clearly.
Yes, I mean, if you look back to pre-pandemic days and look at, if you like, the image of China in Europe and today, it's really very different. China is very low in public opinion polls, and that has a number of causes. Very aggressive diplomacy on China's part, wolf warrior diplomacy. Then we've had mutual sanctions. We've had the collapse of the enormous trade and investment treaty because of those sanctions. We've had very severe difficulties with individual members of the European Union. Lithuania comes to mind. So there are a lot of things that are that really have to be overcome if this relationship is to thrive as it should. So it's complicated at the moment, and this is a very welcome first step. But I think there's quite a way to go.
The European Union Chamber of Commerce in China having this European tour this week, a number of meetings being held with EU officials. Do gatherings like this really help to reset relationships, or are they just window dressing?
No, I think they're quite important. We heard in your previous speaker mentioned the annual report that the EU Chamber in Beijing produces, and it's well worth reading, actually. So the most recent one had long sections on dynamic zero COVID and the difficulties that had created. Now that's over, but there were more than 900 recommendations. And if you look at them, they're to do with market access, they're to do with opaque policy making in China, they're to do with difficulties that companies have in various aspects of their operations in China. They're to do with concerns about divergence. These companies, particularly the big German companies like Volkswagen and BASF, they operate all around the world and they have to conform to international standards of accounting and so on, and environmental accounting increasingly, and that affects their supply chains in China. So there is plenty of work to do to persuade European companies that China remains a friendly place to operate. It's been very difficult. Now, what they will be doing on this tour is sharing their concerns with European leaders so that this feeds into the policy of the European Union at the highest level. And the European Union will be invited to support these businessmen in what they hope to achieve to make working conditions better. And that is robust policy making, and I think we will see the results of that in future discussions at EU level and China level.
Isabel, good to talk to you. Thank you very much for coming back on the programme. Isabel Hilton, the founder and senior advisor at China Dialogue.